show.
Welcome back to the show.
And now, your hosts of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the For Frequency's Sake Tag Team Champions of the World, the Wizard CZ, and Never Wrong Nick Bull.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another exciting edition of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the podcast by the fan, for the fan. Of course, I am one of your hosts, the incomparable, never wrong Nick Bull. So happy you have found us. So happy you joined us. If you're here to talk wrestling and have a good time and find out what other people are watching, this is the place to be. Of course, I'm never wrong Nick Bull. I'd be remiss if I did not introduce to you my tag team partner. He is one half of the For Frequency's Sake Tag Team Champions. He's also one half of the co-host of this show, Card Subject to Change. He is also a co-host of the Wrestling with Fitness podcast with our friend Zach Takis. Of course, though, I am talking about the Wizard, CZ. Wiz, how you doing?
Man, I am doing all right. This feels like the first weekend in a while, and maybe it's only been a couple weekends where I've just had next to nothing to do.
Well, because the rest of the summer looks like it's booked up.
Well, that's fair.
Next weekend's really busy, a lot going on, right? And so on and so forth. But yeah, this was kind of like the calm before the storm on the wrestling side of things.
It really was. And I'm not saying that I'm ungrateful for the travels that I participated in over the last couple of weeks. APW up in Waterloo, Midwest All-Star Wrestling in Rochester, Minnesota, thanks to Crander Q. He didn't have a hot tub full of pizza rolls like some of our other podcasting friends, but he treated me pretty nice and got us a vending table. So that was cool. That was a good weekend. But this weekend, just time to breathe.
That's right.
Nice.
That's right. It has been nice, and it's been nice to process all this wrestling that's going on. A lot going on in the wrestling world. Big thing that happened just, as we record this on Sunday evening. Last night there was a pay-per-view AAA event in Mexico where Alberto El Patron, who is Alberto Del Rio, dropped the title to El Hijo del Vikingo, who is now the AAA champion. Of course, That was spoiled on Monday Night Raw when they said that the match would be for the AAA title before, they spoiled the match essentially. But that happened last night. But we've got other stuff to talk about, right, CZ? We don't need big time events to have a wrestling show.
Not at all. We're in our wheelhouse today. We've got another guest, another first time guest. We have a lot of those, and I'm grateful for any first time guest, but even more so when we are outside of our general area. This young man is based out of Oklahoma. He wrestles in, he mentioned Colorado, Kansas, Texas. He is one half of the Only Friends tag team. We'll talk a little bit about that, but let's welcome in Mr. Logan Knight. Logan, how are you, buddy?
I'm great, guys. Good to be on.
Welcome to the show, man.
There he is. Welcome to the show, man. I'm telling you guys, we're going to have a good time here because our guest is wearing an FTR shirt. So we got to get that out of the way. He's going to represent, man. He's going to be, we're going to have a good time. And we're glad you're here, Logan Knight. And thank you for finding us and tuning into our corner of the world. We want to hear more about you in a little bit, but I'm going to ask you what I ask every other first-time guest that comes to the show. That's on the show. Why pro wrestling? What was it that got you in and kept you in and made you want to become what every wrestling fan has that thing that got them into wrestling. What is it that got you into wrestling? Why pro wrestling?
So I think wrestling was like thing for me. Like, how every kid in their life has that first thing that like their attention. It's just like, you're like, oh my God, that was wrestling for me. I was like 3 years old when I found out about pro wrestling. My my uncle was living with us at the time, and he was showing me. I was born in 1999, and he was showing me I think it was 2001 WrestleMania when I was like, so it was like 2003, 2004. So he was showing me 2001 WrestleMania, and it was Hardy's versus the Brood versus the Dudleys in that ladder match. And I just remember thinking that was like, I mean, I was 4 years old, 5 years old at the time probably, and I thought that was like the craziest thing I've ever seen or thought that could ever be done by a human being. So it was just like captivating. And then after that, it's the only thing I ever wanted to be. But like when you're growing up and learning the harsh realities of life, you kind of, it's like when you're in kindergarten and the teacher's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? It's like, oh, professional wrestler or like an actor or doctor. It's like one of those things where it's like shooting for the moon. You don't think it's ever going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you're here now. So what was that crystallizing moment that finally decided I absolutely have to do this?
So I was in college. I was 19. I took a gap year after high school, and I was going to the University of Central Oklahoma in Edmond, and I had saw a flyer for oh God, what are they? What were they called? Mid South. It was Mid South Wrestling back when it was still technically the old Mid South, but it was far, far, far from the actual famous ownership of Mid South. The company though was good. It was my first time going to an independent show. Uh, I didn't really like heavily watch a lot of independent stuff. Like I watched Ring of Honor, not really understanding that it was independence, just because I was seeing it on TV and stuff like CW. So I didn't really understand that that was independence. And I'd see stuff on YouTube when I was a kid, but I never really knew there was an independent circuit. And so when I found out about Mid South, I went to that show and then found out that there was an independent circuit and stuff like that because right after the end of the first show, I kind of just walked up to one of the wrestlers at their table and asked, like, how do I get started doing this sort of thing?
Right.
Pointed me in the direction of the promoter, and that was that was it. It was literally the easiest thing I've ever done in my life. I was like, oh, this is how I start my dream, telling who I need to talk to. It was the most carny shit afterwards, but like it was like that's how it started. So, but
So what was we hear a lot of stories. We have a training center with from Seth Rollins right in our backyard. So we're a little spoiled. Everybody has a different training story. What was training like for you?
Oh, training was a hoot and a holler, man. So I was supposed to get started training with Mid South. The promoter had me make a down payment of like 3 months of training to him and told me to start by coming to the shows. There wasn't really like a training facility, but there were shows like every 3 weeks. So he'd have me come, do the greenhorn thing, set up, tear down, help wherever I needed to do. And then if I was lucky, some of the guys would show me stuff while they had time before they practice their own match for the evening. It's like those dudes barely have time as it is. I know as a wrestler, I'm showing up probably 3 or 4 hours before the show even begins. So the last thing I want to do is like teach a guy how to lock up for his first time, so that was kind of my experience with that. But I was supposed to be getting trained by a guy named Drake Gallows, and that never ended up happening. I just kind of showed up and kept doing work and didn't get any sort of training. So I had to kind of just move on and find a different place because by that point I had made a few connections just by doing all that and found out about a different school that was about an hour and a half away in Bristow, Oklahoma. I was getting trained by a guy named Brandon Groom. He's a really cool wrestler. He was wrestling at OVW and Florida Championship back in the early days, like 2004, 2005 kind of time. So he was also like a heavy Greco-Roman guy. Like he went to college for mat wrestling. So he really knew his stuff when it came down to like mat-based stuff and, really making sense of wrestling. So I really appreciated the time I got with him. But then I had to kind of justify not driving, 3 hours 2 times a week for wrestling training as a 19-year-old because like I was also still in college at the time. Like I was trying to juggle that and a full-time job and wrestling training and then also trying to go to the shows on the weekends. And so I had to find a place closer, and that's when Drake Gallows, the guy I had originally was supposed to be training me, found out about all this stuff because he had never been told in the first place that he was supposed to be training me. And he goes, "Oh shit, kid, I'm sorry. Like I'm starting my own school. Come here." And so I actually did get to get trained by the guy that was supposed to train me.
What was expectations of training versus reality of training? Was it what you thought? Was it did it not live up to your? I mean, what outsider going into it? How was it?
I was kind of like, I guess I had kind of already had my expectations set, not like in a sense that they were exceeded or I was really surprised in a sort of sense, but it's like I spent a lot of my childhood since the internet was at my fingertips trying to figure out the inner workings of the business, and like I'd watch people's training videos of like how to do this move, how to do this move, and I would practice it endlessly on my trampoline and stuff. So like I spent a lot of my time trying to like successfully do the backyarder shit, but I would never film that kind of thing. It was always just like for fun with my friends. And so I think I kind of just had a unique grasp on wrestling going into it. I feel like the stuff that really shocked me wasn't even anything that was inside of the ropes. It's more so how wrestling is like 60 or 70% networking and knowing somebody, and then the other 30% is the wrestling and talent and getting over part of the business. Like you got to actually learn how to, conduct yourself as a business entity, but also still like be a person at the same time. So it's a weird juggle being entertainer and an independent contractor at the same time.
Absolutely. No, I definitely understand that. Fast forward a little bit. You're out of training. You're getting ready for your first match. Talk
Yeah.
about that experience. What's it like going into the ring for the first time, coming out the curtain? Just walk us through that whole first match for you.
Yeah, so I started way too early. I got thrown into a Royal Rumble sort of thing that was happening for this promotion. I was only 6 months into my training, and granted, I did fine. I did fine. Nobody was hurt. I didn't get hurt. It probably looked like stinky poo poo. I don't think there's even footage of the match anymore, so I'm glad I don't have to, go and relive that. But it was a learning experience for sure, because in my head, I don't know why I thought a crowd would be like, "Oh, a new face, let's pop for him." So I was so disappointed when it was like crickets hitting the curtain, and like you're just there like, "Come on," and they're like, "Shut up." So it's definitely a harsh reality on trying to actually realize that like your shit don't stink, man. You gotta really get over with people and make a connection, or you're just not gonna get it. Like that's why I always felt like being like I'm 6 years in now. The first like 4 years of my career I was a heel. It is so much easier. I don't care what anybody says. It's so much easier to make someone hate you than it is to like you. Being a face when you start is impossible. At least in my experience, it was.
I've heard that a lot. I mean, I'm not a wrestler by any means. I'm a wrestling fan, but everybody that makes that comment or says something in that field is it's easy being the heel. It's easier to make people hate you. So I mean,
Especially when you're making a match too, like the heel leads most of the matches, unless you have just like 20-year vet babyface in your match. Like most of the time the heel leads, so like you get to pace things yourself. You don't have to be blown up to shit, and it's like it really helps kids in their younger year kind of like develop a sense of match structure. At least it did for me.
So
Because when I made the flip to being a babyface, it was almost effortlessly, because I kind of just already knew what the role of a babyface needed to be just off of working heel for so many years.
you talked about it was easier being a heel. However, it was a smooth transition for you going from heel to a baby face.
Yeah.
And you talked about connecting with the crowd. Is it different connections from being a heel and a face, or are you just kind of tweaking a couple things?
Yeah, in a sense, my gimmick, the spotlight, I mean, I'm a huge Miz, Ric Flair kind of mark, and I kind of got the whole like arrogant ego, kind of not like a money gimmick, but I want all the attention sort of thing, and that's where that gimmick came from. But I realized, once I was slowly starting to realize that I was becoming face everywhere that I was like starting to wrestle, it was like slow seeds at first, because it was kind of people just understanding. I don't really, I pull back the curtain completely on social media. Like unless it's a promo, I'm not working anybody. Most of my posts are genuine. And so I think a lot of people were seeing the work I was doing with the LGBTQ community, and then my fight against the Oklahoma State Athletic Commission here in Oklahoma to get some rules revised. I think that started to like slowly just turned the crowd's opinion on me. And I was in a few heel angles here and there, and a couple shows I was doing where I was kind of just being made like the brunt of the group's jokes, like the heel group's jokes, kind of like I guess like the JD McDonough or the Carlito of the Judgment Days. So people were really starting to feel sympathy for me for a little bit, and
Sure.
it just made things easy. So the way I kind of started looking at my gimmick is like a beacon of light, like a beacon of hope, something like a warm, like a ray of sunshine, man, like hope. Like when I have wrestling fans look at me or kids see me, especially now that I'm a face and I represent such a marginalized community, I guess I would say, in the LGBTQ. I want people from that community or people that are unsure if they belong to that community or even regular people, like it doesn't matter, anybody. I want them to see me and be like, damn, so someone like that can do something like this and kind of feel like a sense of inspiration from it.
Let's expand on that a little bit. I have always considered myself an advocate and a safe place for the LGBTQ community. Personally, I have friends that are a part of the community. What was that like going up against the Oklahoma Athletic Commission, and what's it like now in this current I don't want to get too political. Let me stop that right there. But what is it like in this current environment for you?
It's harsh, man. Oklahoma, like, I don't need to tell anybody Oklahoma's ass backwards. We're the most Republican state in the entire country. That's all I'll say there is. So we're really just conservative on views, and a lot of people, not fans, not the wrestlers, not the promoters, not anybody that's actually within the wrestling community or knows what wrestling is, seem to still think that wrestling is like for real. It's kayfabe. We all know this at this point in time. Get privy to it. It's fine. It's just like they seem to not have an understanding that there's a work to it, and in these rules they kind of just like force us into other combat sports as rules. And so I mean, I understand the safety of blood work. That's great. That is sort of a safety precaution that I think everyone should have. But at the same time, I'm also in the lane of thinking of like, blood work's just as good as the day you submit it. Someone can go and do some nasty shit the next day and it immediately nullifies that. So when you have these wrestlers and these boxers and all these other fighters only getting one or two blood tests, pointless to even be doing it. It kind of feels like a cash grab at that point. It's been hard dealing with them because they have all of these set in stone things that tie into Oklahoma legislation. Like, it's not just rules we can get overturned with the athletic commission itself. A lot of their rules are coinciding with like state legislation. So anytime we come to them and want to get something changed, they are middlemen themselves. They have to go up to state legislature or the House and try and get things changed that way. And that's a real big hassle for them. And so when it comes to stuff like gender issues, with them having bans on intergender wrestling and bans on trans people wrestling here in Oklahoma, it kind of just like you make your shot and it hits the backboard into their trash can because it's not really like something that's on their radar. They're more concerned about safety of the sport and what kind of money they can get from concessions or door admission or seats and that kind of thing. And I spent a year and a half. I went to two meetings almost by myself before people started coming to the meetings. Everybody said that they supported me and wanted to show up and wanted to help, and the promoters here kept saying they wanted to change, and all the other wrestlers were like, yeah, this is fucked up, we support you. And then like these commission meetings only happen quarterly through the year, and I show up for half a year and no one's at the commission meetings, and I'm sitting here tweeting, Facebook posting, Instagram posting, the address, the time, the cause, the why, how you can help, the email, phone call, like whatever, like let's get this stuff changed. And it took 6 months to have people actually show up, and I was blessed by the last meeting we had, which was back in July, maybe October, I want to say. I got a lot of people from Texas to come up that doesn't really have a athletic commission. There's a promoter I'm really close with in Wichita, which they have a commission in Kansas, but it's more like the promoters have to deal with them and not so much the wrestlers. So it's kind of just unsanctioned wrestlers, but the promotion and the promoters are sanctioned. So I had him come down and kind of like talk about the athletic commission there. And I want to say about 20 or 30 people showed up from the just general wrestling community in the general states around here, came and gave their piece, and we all talked, and it was kind of like they had already made their decision, because the first couple of meetings I went to, they let the Q&A session happen at the end of the meetings where everybody gets to voice their opinion and kind of like talk about what could be changed in the future. This time around when everybody showed up and they had gotten all the heat because I had managed to get all of this I got this on Fox News in Oklahoma. I got this on a bunch of huge wrestling media sites like Fight Inc. and like in Fightful and all those big ones. And I did a lot of radio spots. Like I even tried to get on Busted AM for this and get some eyes on it. And they were getting a lot of emails and phone calls because I know the tweet I made about it got upward of like 3,000 retweets and something like that. Like people were pissed at the time and doing all they could. And it's like, that's really all we have at this point. It's like none of us have the money for the legal power it takes to take on an entire state legislature because we're independent wrestlers. So we're all kind of just like yelling until someone helps us, unfortunately, which I hope at some point the right avenue or person can help us, which I think could be soon. The problem we faced in that last meeting that I was trying to get to is that we had the Q&A in the middle of the meeting before or the first two meetings, the Q&A was in the middle of the meeting before they would make a decision on a rule. This last one, the Q&A was after the entire meeting, after they had just made a decision on everything. And so once they had made a decision on everything, it was like the door was closed for another year. And they were like, we'll mock up something to revise the rules and get this up to legislature and see what we can do. And it's like, well, we want to be the ones to attack this. We don't want you to word this in whatever weird schmucky way that you're trying to word it. And you know, because they're also trying to be like their concern in the thinking of all this is women's safety in the wrestling matches of intergender, or if a trans person is wrestling a woman, that kind of logistics. And we're trying to get it through to them. And we brought a bunch of female wrestlers to this last meeting. We're trying to get it through to them that they go through the same training with the same people, taking the same bumps, taking the same hits. So it doesn't change anything when we're trying to get people through the door. It's the same stuff. And they don't seem to understand that. So it's like rooted in sexism a little bit when you think about it. They're kind of like, oh, you're all just frail women that can't handle themselves, and that's an issue then of itself. But what was so appalling about that meeting is that there was other rules being decided on, like they talk so much about safety with the professional wrestling end of things and trying to govern us so hard, but then they legalized bare knuckle boxing in Oklahoma. And then when it comes to the Muay Thai guys needing a revisement on the rules, they said that the Muay Thai guys can just come up with a committee of themselves to, mock up something for their rules. But when it comes to our rules, they need to be the committee to make the rules for us. So to me, it kind of just feels like I'm chasing my fucking tail every time I fight them. It's like I'm going in a circle and it's never going to end. I'm trying my best to fight them, but I'm only like one dude, and I also have like a life. Like I'm about to be a first-time father. I have a kid on the way in October, so I got like other stuff going on. So I've kind of had to drop the ball for a year, but I want to get this handled. It's just like I got to get help.
Right. Yeah. Well, congratulations on becoming a father here in a few months.
Yeah. I'm super excited.
Do you guys know what it is?
No, so we're actually getting the gender scan on Tuesday, but we're waiting until June 14th because at my home show in Wichita at Heartland Championship Wrestling, we're going to do a gender reveal match, and it's going to be really fun. The two dudes that are doing the match is like, he's a trainee from Oklahoma that I helped with at the school with Drake Gallows that I mentioned, and then I've been in Wichita for a really long time now, like a regular in Wichita, and so I helped with the other kid that's representing the girls side of things. So like it's like my two, not like trainees, but dudes I helped with heavily, or like telling me what my kids are, tell me what my kid's going to be. So I'm super excited. I'm not going to know. I'm not going to know till the pinfall. I'm giving the envelope to the boys. I'm going to tell them as much near falls as possible, man.
And mom's okay with this?
Oh yeah, no, she's a huge wrestling fan. She wasn't a wrestling fan before we got together. She knew what wrestling was. We got together. She's a fucking through the moon wrestling fan now. She absolutely adores wrestling. She comes with me to every show. She's on the flyer for the gender reveal match with me. Like everybody loves her. Like whenever people book me, they're mostly like, "Is Catherine coming?" And I'm like, "Yes, I know. You're booking Catherine. I get it."
Oh my goodness, I'm going to give you props because I have never heard of that for a match concept before. I'll give it to you.
I think the crowd in Wichita is really going to like it.
I love it, dude. I love it.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
Was that your
We're even doing this
brainchild?
big like merchandise giveaway at the show where if people bring a pack of diapers or if they buy something off our registry, they get entered into this raffle, and it has like over $500 worth of merchandise in it. Like one of the guys on the roster is bringing a WrestleMania 36 signed like general admission chair that he got from back in the day, and so I already know that's worth a fuck ton of money. So like,
Right.
Nick, we may
Yeah.
have to make a trip to Wichita.
We might have to. That's a very unique concept.
I need to go up to Iowa. Leon King's been trying to get me up there, and I just got to make the time for it. With me slowing down in September, right before the baby gets here until January, it like took away 3 months of bookings that I was planning on, traveling to like Iowa and Missouri and stuff. But 2026, it's not like I'm done forever.
Absolutely. And you mentioned Leon King. I'm glad you brought that name up. He's someone that's on my radar, but we haven't had a chance to speak with him yet.
Yeah.
I follow him on Facebook. I watch his promos, and I've seen a couple interviews with him. Seems like a really good dude. So
Leon's great. I love Leon so much.
Logan, let's go back into the wrestling world a little bit. You mentioned a name that I absolutely love you for, and that is The Miz.
Yes.
He is
big Miz fan.
I have always been a big Miz fan, whether he is the most hated guy on the roster or not. He's not now, but he is so underrated in my opinion and deserves so much more. Is he one of your big influences?
100%. Like whenever I tell people that The Miz is one of my favorite wrestlers, I kind of had to ease the gas pedal back on the whole Ric Flair's my favorite wrestler thing the last couple of years. Is what it is. He's still phenomenal wrestler. I had the same birthday as Ric Flair, so I was super like, I am the reincarnation. I'm gonna make sure this happens.
Sure.
But no, The Miz is definitely a heavy influence. I also like guys like AJ Styles, Kenny Omega, Edge, Shawn Michaels. Those are like my big, like that's my Mount Rushmore right there. But the Miz, he had such a heavy influence on me because when I first started getting, I would say there was a couple of years in my childhood where I stopped watching wrestling just because it wasn't like accessible on television for me anymore. Grew up in poverty, just gonna be honest, so it just wasn't something we could do. And when I was like 11 or 12 is when I started getting heavily back into wrestling, and that was when John Cena was the top dog king of fucking everything. I had to see him on my television screen for 5 hours a week, and I was kind of sick of it because I'm definitely the even to this day I'm the type of guy that likes the fast, like high fly and fast paced action type. Like AEW, dude, that's my bread and butter. That's my shit. I love AEW, and when I say that to people, they know exactly the type of wrestling I'm talking about. Like I really do like that type of wrestling. And John, he was definitely not like. I mean, The Miz isn't either, but John definitely wasn't like the best dude to watch back in the day because it was definitely the 5 moves of doom, Hulk Hogan type of build. And I was getting over it for a minute there. And so my little brother, he was way younger than me at the time, and he was the huge, like biggest John Cena fan. He had the headband, the wristbands, the t-shirts. Like every time we went to the events, he just decked the fuck out. Loved it. And it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And so by the time like I'd already liked The Miz beforehand, like when The Miz was tag teaming with John Morrison doing Dirt Sheet.
Dude, that was the best.
I was 10. I was 10, and I already knew that was inspirational.
That was
so I was like, that stuff was fantastic, and I even remember a little bit of him doing Diva Search. So like I still have that back in the back memory bank. But I'd already liked Miz a little bit, and so by the time he had come out and like done the anti-Cena shirt, and he was just like strutting his stuff, and then I had never gotten to watch Jeff Jarrett at that point, so I didn't know what the stroke was. But seeing Miz hit a really unique finish with the skull crushing finale, and it always was impactful. Like it was putting out John Cena the first time he ever did it. Like he didn't have to do it more than once. And something about that as a kid, I was like, yeah, Miz is the shit. And then his promo skills were good. He pissed everyone off, and then he got so good at talking that he was being paid strictly to show up to do a talking show, and I thought that was crazy. And I had that on my bucket list for a little bit as an independent wrestler, was to get a talk show segment over enough on an independent show to be booked solely just to do it and not even like wrestle. And I was able to do that 3 times a couple of years ago.
There you go, man.
And I thought I was like dude, I'm doing the Miz thing. I'm doing the Miz thing.
For Miz, it's probably it's a natural thing, but it's also a way of like, you know, Jericho gets so much credit for reinventing himself, but like Miz has really, you know, Miz is a chameleon, and that's not a knock. It's like every room he's in, he'll blend in and he'll work just fine.
He's a fly on the wall, but also the heaviest anchor in that company. And he won't
cause one problem. You know, he married a coworker. He's got kids. Like, tell me, has he ever gotten in trouble? No. Like, he's a guy.
I'm convinced anybody that doesn't like the Miz at this point, it's strictly like a work, because like if you watch anything that like reveals the curtain even just a little bit to the Miz as a person or who he is in his like personal life, if you watch Miz or Mrs. or the Miz even has a documentary out on the WWE 24 thing, like he has a ton of biographical stuff out, and if you just go learn about the dude, he legit came from nothing and just made a bet on himself, shot for the moon. Like shot for the moon multiple times, and he's still doing it to this day at 40 something years old, shooting for the moon, trying to make things happen and make money in any way he possibly can in the industry that he loves. And he's constantly switching things up, and man, he married a hot ass wife. Like how could you not be inspired by the dude?
He married up. That's
like, yeah, man, like there's just so much about the Miz to like when you really just like when you're looking at Mike Mizanin, you're like, that's the fucking dude. But when you're looking at the Miz, you're like,
you're significantly younger than us two old heads. I mean, when you said you were born in '99, I'm like, oh man, he is a lot younger than us. I ask all of our guests this, and what's some of your favorite shows to go back and watch? What are your go-tos when you want to go back and watch like a pay-per-view or a wrestling show? What is it? What match is it? What show is it?
Dude, okay, so I really liked the triple threat main event of, I can't remember what WrestleMania it was, but it was Triple H, Benoit, and Michaels. And I liked that match so much because obviously everybody and their mama was blading at the time, but like you really got to be clever with how you do that, because when you're privy to knowing that there's a blade in a match when someone's busted open, you kind of like look for it, or like fans will look for it just to like, you know, kind of feel smart. But Benoit did the craziest shit. I had to replay the match a couple times to confirm that it was even like real. But Benoit hit a blade that he used in the match in Shawn Michaels' boot. Like he hit it on a completely other wrestler. So he gets Shawn Michaels to do like a monkey flip kind of gimmick, like he has him by the legs, and he kind of just scuffs the blade out with his fingers while he's got his legs. Shawn Michaels reverses it, makes him do a monkey flip. He hits the post and he blades. And I was like, where did you get that? And so I had to rewind it like 3 or 4 times. And I was like, it was in Shawn's boot the whole time, because we were like 20 minutes into this match already. I was like, what the fuck?
It's crazy. Obviously everybody knows what happens after, but that match, I don't care who he is, what he did. I'm talking about his in-ring performance. That's a match that a lot of people, that's like a dirty secret. That's the dirty little secret nobody wants to admit. Like everybody loves that match, but they don't want to talk about it because his name's associated with it. But I'm glad you brought it up, because it is an excellent match.
It is, for sure. If I had to like off the cuff say like a couple of others, like I was just talking about it last night with some of the guys at the show I was on. I genuinely, it wasn't that long ago, but I genuinely think some of the best wrestling I ever got to watch was that kind of like 2017 to right before COVID NXT period. That had some of my favorite talent to ever do it in the last 20 years, doing some of their best work of all time. And even some of the older guys that were on their way out, like Bobby Fish was putting up some of the best matches of his entire life on NXT. And so you had stuff like Evolution and the Cruiserweight Classic going on at the same time, and NXT UK. I just really felt like that was such an inspirational thing for me at the time, because that was around the time that I was starting to wrestle myself. So I was 18 or 19. So I was seeing all these young guys or hungry people or people that had been on the independents forever finally breaking in and getting a shot at WWE, even if it was just NXT, and then fighting for their life like it was their last match they were going to ever have every Wednesday night. I was just like, this is some of the best shit I've ever seen. It reminded me of like early ROH, like 2004, 2005 Ring of Honor. And so like that whole era was just I was glued to my
That's
seat.
right up CZ's alley, man. CZ loves Gargano and loves Ciampa.
Black and Gold NXT,
Yeah.
in my opinion. I know Nick is going to disagree, and I respect
maybe
that.
I will, maybe I won't.
But NXT Black and Gold is the best era of NXT, in my opinion. All the talent there.
Oh yeah. This new stuff is great, but it's like you can't beat the Black and Gold NXT. You had so many young guns versus so many like local legends and like people that needed to make a name for themselves right then or there, or else that was it for them. That it's just like can't beat it.
Yeah, and look at all the stars that spun out of there. I mean, Nick mentioned Ciampa and Gargano. Those two will always be on my radar as top tier. Adam Cole, Finn Balor, Shinsuke Nakamura, who doesn't get enough credit and should be prominently featured more than he is. Oh, Samoa Joe was in that mix too. Karrion Kross for a while.
Yeah, he was on NXT. Yep, Cross too. I mean, yeah, you got Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, Io Sky, Kairi Sane. Like their whole like main roster division is like pretty much homegrown, except for the big like plants that they have from other places. Like you got the AAA stars and the New Japan stars, Julia and Stephanie Vakir coming in and stuff now. But like they really did a great job like home growing that talent and then also managing to have Vince not fuck all of that up right before he left. So like good on them. There's a couple of people I'm going to severely never understand why they never got to really blow up on the main roster, like Keith Lee or Donovan Dijak. Like
Donovan Dijak
like
multiple times. Like they tried with him multiple times. Like he was a good wrestler. And then
I don't know how they missed with Mustafa either. Mustafa Ali is one of the best wrestlers on this planet. Like I didn't understand that at all. Yeah, and then even now, like Ricochet. I love Ricochet to death. I thought his best work was honestly in Lucha Underground and then Black and Gold NXT. And then by the time he got to the main roster, I was like, dude, this feels like forced and like I don't like this. And now that he's on AEW, it's like it's a breath of fresh air. Like this, him getting to just peel off and be him and be kind of an asshole because he kind of is an asshole. Right. Like it's perfect. It's perfect, and it's a breath of fresh air. I love it. Like. Yeah, guys like that.
You mentioned AEW. Obviously, that is where you've got your finger on the pulse there. What else are you watching current product-wise?
Yeah. I do watch TNA. I got to do extra work with them last year, and so I started keeping a heavy eye on the product right before, and then now still. So I also have a lot of like buddies that do extra work for TNA, and then I also wrestled Maggie Lee last September in Kansas City right before she got picked up by TNA, and so it's like I like to keep out and watch TNA and see if I'll catch Maggie on the knockouts division, but. Yeah, like I'll catch clips of shows. I try to keep up weekly with like the big programs like AEW and WWE, but if I see clips from indie shows or stuff like New Japan or my buddy Jack Talos from NWA, he just started his All Japan tour, so I caught some All Japan over the weekend. So it's just stuff. If it catches my eye, I'll be like, oh shit, I'll go watch the whole show. See if anything else catches my eye.
Yeah, without a doubt. So we're card subject to change for a reason. Sometimes we like to play a little fantasy booking. Is there I'm going to ask you two questions. I'll start with this one. Is there a storyline, past or present, that you feel you would fit into? Whether you're making it better, whether you just want to be in that storyline, where would you put yourself?
I really liked the whole 2-year period where Edge seemed like the most desperate person on planet Earth just to get a W or get a championship or get his way. Like he was doing some of the most scumbag shit he could possibly do.
Hooking up with Vicky Guerrero.
Dude, he was on a run for a while, and that's why I love Edge. Like, oh my god, as a kid, Edge was the coolest person on planet Earth. I couldn't get and you got to imagine when I first got into wrestling, I was like, that dude's a fucking vampire. And then I come back and I watch wrestling when I'm 9 or 10 years old. I'm like, he's sleeping with people in the ring. Like, what is happening?
The live sex celebration. He promised it.
Yeah, I was like, this is the coolest dude ever. And So if I could just plug myself into any like Edge storyline ever, I'd be happy.
Dude, that's a great topic because go back and watch like the clips of Edge and Vicky at their wedding and like they're taking pictures and he's so into the gimmick and he's so like in love with her and it's
Ain't a better worker on this god green earth, dude. I'm telling you.
Magic.
Yeah.
Who's gonna marry
So is it safe to say that we could put you with Cardona and Brian Myers to be another Edgehead?
Love to.
Oh, dude, that was oh my god, I was a huge Zack Ryder mark back when I was also like a huge Miz fan, and so like those were my dudes. I was like Zack Ryder, Miz, Edge, like that was my holy trinity of wrestlers at the time, and dude, I would do that in like SmackDown versus Raw. I would kick Kurt Hawkins out of the Edge heads, and it would be me and Zack Ryder.
Hey, I'm glad I'm not the only one that does that on video games. I get the guys I like together and make them a power faction.
So that's what made me like Black and Gold NXT even more, because I had a WWE, I had like WWE 17 or 18 right before I had started watching Black and Gold NXT, and it had Roderick Strong on it, and so I barely knew who Roderick Strong was just because I had seen a little bit of ROH, and I was like, that guy's dope. I need a tag team partner for my career while I'm in NXT. I'm gonna tag with Roderick Strong, and I was like, this dude's a fucking beast. Like he was making saves like I didn't think an AI could make, and I was he got us like 2 NXT tag titles. I was like, this dude's the GOAT. And so when I flip on Black and Gold NXT and it's him doing the Dusty Rhodes Classic against Pete Dunne, I was like, what the shit? This is amazing. And then he went on and did the whole Undisputed Era thing, and I was like, he really is the best wrestler.
He's a good wrestler for sure.
Another name that's very underrated in my opinion and should have a lot more
Oh
credit.
yeah, dude. I definitely think it's everybody that doesn't like Roderick Strong is probably someone that heavily cares about character work. But I personally think in the last couple of years doing the AEW stuff with like Undisputed Kingdom and stuff, like he definitely got to work on the character. Like he became super annoying as a heel. So like that is development.
Logan, if there's, and you can name more than one, I don't care, but is there someone that you would love to get in the ring with, whether they are alive, living or dead, across the wrestling universe?
Like even if I could have them like in their prime,
absolutely,
like that kind of thing. I'm gonna have a kind of weird answer. It's gonna depend on if I'm face or if I'm heel, and I'll give an answer to both. If I'm a face, I want to work Ric Flair. If I'm a heel, I want to work Shawn Michaels.
All right.
That's just definitely the archetype, and you know, whenever they got to do that at WrestleMania, it was like the culmination of the perfect, like that was the perfect match when it happened. You know what I mean? The retirement match, that was the perfect match. And sometimes I think about how Rick should have just left that the fuck alone, because that truly was.
You mean leave the memories alone?
He may have gone down like he may have gone down not in his prime and not had the most athletic match that could have possibly happened in his career, but it's just like you played the role 110% exactly to a T. And you know, not every wrestler gets to say that like very, very often in their match. Like guys can huff themselves up as much as they want and be like, that's the best match I've ever had. That's the best match that's ever happened in so-and-so Kansas or so-and-so Missouri, or best match that's ever happened for so-and-so company. But it's like, that was the best match in wrestling, period, ever when that happened. So it's like, you got to live up to that kind of standard.
High on my list of favorites. The drama, the emotion, Rick just like, come on, kick me. And the I'm sorry, I love you. I mean, leave the memories alone, man.
It's old Yeller. We cried when old Yeller died, and we cried when Flair got his head kicked off one last time.
Yeah, and then in retrospect, 15 years later, we probably thought Sean should have done it a second time. But you know, it is what it is.
So, Logan, we're winding things down a little bit. We like being respectful of everyone's time.
Okay,
definitely need to know where we can find you on social media, YouTube, wherever, and where you're going to be in the coming weeks.
You can find me on any social media at Logan Knight Pro. I somehow snuck that on every platform, so I'm really glad I got that. Very easy to find me. Where I'll be in the next coming weeks. I mean, June month for the rest of the year. It's Pride Month, and then also I kind of just jam packed this month because I came out about 2 years ago now, 3 years ago maybe, and so I made it a mission after that to try and get a bunch of Pride bookings. And those first 2 years, I got like a little bit, but this year, like now after everything that's happened, and then getting on PWI and stuff, like I guess I made a wave in the independent scene, and so I got a ton of Pride bookings and just wrestling bookings in general coming up. I'll be at Wrestling for a Cause in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, June 7th and June 8th. They're having a tournament, and so it's going to be a 2-day tournament, and I'm really looking forward to that. I'll be doing my gender reveal. There's going to be a match for the gender reveal, and then I have a championship match that same night at that show in Wichita on June 14th. I'll be hosting a wrestling themed drag show in Oklahoma City on June 20th. And then I'll be going to Uncanny Attractions with Stormy for an Only Friends match in Austin, Texas. Did I say Austin, Texas? Austin, Texas. And then when I end June, it's going to be hefty. It's going to be June 27th. I'm wrestling for Fun in Colorado Springs. June 28th, I'm in Greeley, Colorado for Battleground Pro Wrestling. And then June 29th, I get to make my debut with Stormy for Wrestle Drag. They're a really cool LGBT-led promotion out of Phoenix, Arizona. And I've been keeping my eye on them for a few years now. And I'm friends with Gino Rivera and his kind of camp, and I see that they wrestle there all the time. And so I'm glad I get to finally work for them because they're coming out to Denver, and it kind of just worked out travel wise for everybody. So we're making our debut for them, and then later that same day we're going to be making our debut for Primos for Brokeback Billy's Big Gay Extravaganza. So that'll be really fun. I have like 10 bookings to clear out here in June, and then after that it's a lot of slowing down. I think July, August, September I probably have like 9 bookings altogether. So really, this is my hefty month here.
You know, I'm glad you mentioned Stormy because it was on my list of things to talk about, and I completely forgot. Before I let you go, talk about Only Friends. How did that come about, and how does that partnership work for you?
Only Friends is the best thing that's happened in my wrestling career. It's my favorite thing that I've done, probably like period. It is always something that me and her shot the shit about. My trainer Drake Gallows, he's really close with the promoter out here in Wichita. He worked for him constantly, and I would always come up here when I was super green, and she started at the same time. So we met when we were super young, like 19, 20, and we came up in the business together and became really close friends. And we'd always shot the crap on like, what if we were a tag team, because she's a big girl. She's 6 foot. She's believable when she's a threat. And so I was always like, you're like the perfect tag partner. I've never understood why nobody would do that, because she can fight the boys. She's been fighting the boys in Kansas, and it's like there should be more opportunities for the women. And it kind of got my ball rolling because I was already doing the OSAC stuff kind of. And I got booked for this company called Fountain City Pro. They were having their debut show in Olathe, Kansas last March, and about a month and a half before the show, they had Stormy booked against Shai Lynn, and I didn't have a match yet. And then Shailene tore her ACL. So Stormy didn't have a match. I didn't have a match. And neither did Laney Luck and GPA. And so the booker asked us if we wanted to be a tag team for the night. And we were like, well, what if we were a tag team permanently? And it kind of gave some thought for the next couple of days. Had to come up with a name because we never had a name. We had to kind of come up with like, is this going to be a heavily gimmicked tag team, or is this going to be we're one of them wrestling gods type of tag teams, like indie darling type of tag teams? And I feel like we kind of felt like a safe mixture because getting brought up, she's heavily relying on kind of like comedy, but also like big spot type of wrestling, and making it make sense. And I'm kind of the same way. I like having a little bit of mix of everything. I like lucha. I like grappling. I like comedy. I like the aerodynamic stuff like Will Ospreay. So like if I can figure out any way to make something cool make sense, or make something meaningful or effective make sense, that's what we try to do. And as long as it's something we can get a reaction out of the crowd, that's my biggest thing. Is that if we can get a reaction out of the crowd, I don't care what type of reaction. That's what matters to me the most.
You're looking for the connection, and you're wanting the reaction.
The connection is very much important, because after you make the connection, it doesn't fucking matter what you do. You can do the coolest thing ever, you can do the lamest thing ever, as long as you have that connection. it opens the door for you. And if you're the type of person that wants to do a bunch, that's fine. And as long as you have that connection, you're not going to miss. But we had that first tag match, and we kind of had this idea behind Only Friends. Like me and her get mistaken a lot for a couple. It happens in everyday life in professional wrestling. We're two young kids that look like each other, so probably think we're a couple. But
and you tag team together, so you're with each other a lot.
Yeah, so people kind of had that misunderstanding of us already, and we were like, kind of, how can we, make a play on a stereotype and kind of tie in something that like everybody would understand? And I was like, well, OnlyFans is a big thing right now, and people already think of us in that kind of demeanor with each other. And so, what if we kind of heavily play into the fact that this is just a platonic friendship? We're here to kick ass. This is only friends, and we make that connection to the OnlyFans thing. And so, when people hear OnlyFans, they think only friends. I've had people I've had fans say that now. It's like, I can't think of OnlyFans without thinking of OnlyFriends, and I can't think of OnlyFriends without thinking of OnlyFans. And so it's like, it's a really funny connection that I wanted to make people think about. And at first we heavily relied on the "we're just friends" gimmick, but now people kind of they get that. They want to see more. They want to see, can we wrestle? Can we hold our own against some of the top tag teams in the independent wrestling scene? And by golly, we're doing it. I knew it was going to work for a match or maybe a couple of matches or a few appearances, but it's like we're wrestling together every other weekend, where most of our bookings are with each other. Like, we're an actual true to the T tag team traveling the country together. And it's like, it's amazing because all of my matches make more sense now, and they're more fun, and I get more crowd reaction when I'm with her. And like that's not really something I struggle with as an independent wrestler, but it's like, I don't know. I get that feeling in my chest, and like it makes me smile no matter what we're doing. Like it's like, God, this is badass. I'm doing this with my best friend. We're breaking down barriers in independent wrestling. Like, if we happen to somehow manage to win gold before I, take my break, we're gonna be the first intergender tag team to win gold in Kansas. That's crazy to think about, that we're in the year of 2025 and something like that is even still a possibility. So I think the idea, like, not only did we want to do this with each other already, and then on top of that, the matches are working, the merchandise sales are working, we're getting booked, realized like we're becoming sort of like role models in a way, or like figureheads for the community here in professional wrestling, that we're inspiring more promotions and more people to break down the barriers and do these intergender matches or book women in a different way, and kind of just think outside the box on wrestling. And that's why I like a lot of promotions like the ones I work for, like Wrestle Drag, that are kind of unique in that way, or like the biggest indie promotion in the world right now, GCW. They do all that sort of stuff too. And my biggest inspiration, like where I came out swinging with all this fire, and who I think is like my idol right now, is Effie, getting to listen to how passionate and driven he is about being Effie and not being signed on a TV, and making independent wrestling work and making it a true career, and making, that TV money, but on the independent scene, doing the groundwork, the, boots on the ground type shit. Like, that is the most inspirational thing that I've heard in the last couple of years. And getting to listen to his podcast and just like seminars and stuff from him, is like, he's got such a unique view on the business, and he's got such a target on his back, rather it's from people that think he can't wrestle good enough, or people that think he plays into the gay thing too much. That's just who he is like, and it's just amazing to see something like that blow up so much in this time, because also he's taught me a lot about social media presence. Is like, you gotta be present and pushing yourself and pushing the stuff you're working on social media, like legitimately every day.
To me, Matt Cardona is the king of that. Like, has set himself above everybody else, and it's not disparaging to anybody else, but like, Matt Cardona has harnessed the weapon that is social media.
Yeah, you have to collectively figure out how to weaponize like every piece of you, because every piece of you, as a wrestler, as a person, as someone who gives their time in exchange for money, or you're getting time taken out of your life, every piece of you is valuable, and you got to treat yourself that way. And once you start treating yourself more like a valuable product over some sort of slave to the game, you'll start to see a little more reward. I mean, wrestling doesn't owe any of us shit at all. But at the same time, life is hard and you need to make value of yourself. So give your all to independent wrestling, but make sure you can get a little piece of the pie back. And you have to learn over time and through repetition how to get a little piece of the pie back.
Absolutely. Well, that is a fantastic note with a fantastic sentiment to end on, I think, Logan.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much for coming on. I've had a lot of fun talking to you here, and I hope we get to do it again down the road.
Of course, fellas. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
That is going to wrap things up for this edition of Card Subject to Change. We will be back midweek for our short form show, The Kickout, so stay tuned for that. For my tag team partner, one half of the For Frequency's Sake Tag Team Champions of the World, never wrong, Nick Bull. I am the Wizard CZ. This has been Card Subject to Change, powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, and colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo. Whew, I got it all out, Nick.
You did it.
We'll see you next time right here on Card Subject to Change.
This has been a For Frequency's Sake Podcast Network production. For more great content, subscribe to For Frequency's Sake on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.